Welcome back to Hopline, and in this video I'm going to talk about two things. First of all, I want to make a general comparison of wax versus pads. I've been using wax on pretty much all my boards for the last 25 years, and I changed to pads on some of my boards I think 4 years back, and it changed the way I treat my surfboard and maybe a little bit my surfing, so that's pretty interesting. The second part is going to be an in-depth review of the RSPro Hexa Pads, which proved to be the best option for me. It might not be for you, but we'll find out together. So let's get right into it. So the first time I came in contact with these small sticky pads was on the Canarian Islands. I was sitting in the lineup and there was a guy paddling out. He was on a Crypto, which was the most hyped board at that moment. And he had these stickers on his board, no wax, and I looked at it. He was sitting next to me and I was like, wow, what's that? So we got into a little talk and he said, yeah, it works for him. It's the second season and he's getting away from wax because there's so many benefits in the stickers. And that was when I first heard of it. I'm not a fan of foamies. They give me a rash, and I sometimes even struggle with just the tail pad because it gives me a rash on my feet. So I was a little curious, but I didn't buy them straight away. And then I bought this one, the Slingshot High Roller, and it became my prone foil board. And I couldn't find a foam deck, and I didn't want it something for me, but I didn't want wax because I would take it in the car and it didn't fit my style of using this board. I would leave it in the car a lot of times, it would get hot. So the wax would melt, and I was actually looking for something different. And that's when I remembered the guy from the Canarian Islands, and I looked it up, and there were several companies selling these pads. So they're quite expensive, way more expensive than wax, but they stay on for a lot longer. So I bought a pair, I put them on, I went out the first session, and I was like, this is shit. And this is because I think I put them on the wrong way. And then I took them off, I ordered another company which was more recommended online and had better reviews. I put them on again, I set them a little bit further out, not only where my feet are, but where I have more grip sitting on the board. And that was actually pretty sweet. And I remember my first session, I was on the board standing and I was like, yeah, that's gonna work. That could be something I've been using in the future. So this was roughly 4 years ago, and this is still the same pad on this board. So I've been using this for 4 years, and there's like a lot of people are afraid that the pads will come off or peel off. They won't. Like if you put them on the right way, they stay on forever, I think. And they are not gonna damage your board, and they're not gonna damage the look of your board. So if you want to preserve this surfy look with a tail pad here and like a clear coating here, that's what the Hexa pads or the pads in general do as well. So let me just give you a quick summary of the benefits I get from using the pads instead of using wax, and then we get into the cons. First of all, they're really sticky. Like I've never had any problems. Even in salt water, sometimes after the rain, or if it's dirty and you have a lot of sediment in the water, it gets kind of slippery. Even then, I have more than enough traction on the pads. They don't give me a rash, foam does, so I much more prefer the stickers over like a foamy deck pad. Second, I'm a family guy, so a lot of times we take rental cars, and I know a lot of people say it's a rental, don't be gentle. I try to treat my rental cars in a good way and more or less return them the way I was handed out the car. So with using pads, if you're not using a board back, you can just slide it in. If you touch a seat or something, it's not gonna come off and stick to the seat, and wax is really hard to get out of clothes and stuff like that. So that's a benefit for me. The same in a board back or in a sock. It never melts to the sock, and it's not gonna stick to the board back. Like if you leave your board back in the sun and the wax melts, sometimes it's really hard to get the board out. And the same is with heat in general. I'm a family guy, we often drive to the beach and I have to leave the stuff in the car, or I just pack it and then drop the kids off somewhere, maybe make a small sand castle and then go somewhere else. Heat in the car, it gets hot so quick and wax just melts, and this does not melt. And I think this is the biggest benefit for me in general. No matter how hot it gets, they don't come off, they don't peel off, and they don't melt. Like something like this, you even with wax, you need, like this is a warm water and this is a cold water. You not only need different waxes for different temperatures outside of the water, but also inside of the water. And all this is more or less gone with using pads. Another major benefit for me is the pads don't collect dirt. Like even if you put the board upside down on the beach, nothing's gonna stick to the pads, whereas sand is just gonna ruin your wax. I hate sand in my wax and I usually take it off and put a new layer on. Like all this taking off, putting back on, all these issues and maintenance of your wax layer. It sounds like nothing, but it can become a real hassle if you're traveling a lot. Going from a cold North Sea to something warm tropical, and you not only have to take the wax off, you have to clean your board with alcohol, because the thinnest layer of maybe a cold water wax underneath a hot water wax will make the hot water wax just melt off or come off in hot water, because there's a thin layer of melting cold water wax. So that really was an issue for me. If you're staying in the same location, it might not be a problem for you, but for me, traveling to different locations all the time, a pad is just so much more convenient. So I really did get a lot of benefits from using the pads on my surfboard, and there's only a few cons. And I think the one which is annoying me the most is that it's a little bit more slippery, not standing, but sitting on the board in heavy surf. You have to remember to put the pads really close to the rails, because I usually put a little bit of wax on the rails for my hands and duck dives, and sitting on the board and moving the board in the lineup. And this is where it might get a little bit more slippery. I kind of solved the problem by using a little bit of hot water wax. I put it on the rails and then I used a fan. I just melted it and cleaned it off, so nothing is really sticking to the board. I can still put it upside down in the sand, but there's a tiny bit more grip towards the rails, which is nice for me. And I just developed a much more tighter grip with my legs sitting on the board. So it's not really a big issue, but you can solve the problem by putting the stickers close to your rails and applying a little bit of wax to your rails. Some people even cover the whole thing in wax, which is, yeah, something you can do, but then you get all the other problems with melting and dirt and board bag and rental cars again. So that's really destroying the benefits in my eyes. So it really took me a long time to realize how much I benefit from using pads instead of wax. And it might be my style of surfing, my style of traveling from warm water to cold water, but more or less putting pads now on all my boards. I put them really close to the rail, and yeah, I like them and I can really recommend them. Try them on one of your boards, see how you go. Just be aware that it might be a little bit slippery on the beginning while sitting, not surfing, and see how they work for you. And this is where we get to the second point of this video. I tried different pads. There's cheap options, there's more expensive ones. They pretty much all work, but the ones that work best for me are the RSPro Hexa Pads. I'm not sponsored, not yet, but I bought them. They're quite expensive, but you don't need, they're small and big packages. You can, if you get the big one, you might be able to use it on 2 boards actually. That's what I did. And they're easy to put on, and I was really surprised how well they stayed on the board. Like these ones, this has been on the board for I think 3 to 4 years. There's not a single piece coming off. I covered some sand right here and right here, which was a really pain, and I would have taken off the stickers because it's annoying me to have a little sand corn under the sticker. I had no more because I used it on 2 boards and I had to leave it like this, and I never replaced it. I thought it would come off, but it did not. All my followers already know I recently bought a lot of new boards. I'm sizing down on the high roller. I'm going from 4.6 to 4.0. I've got another one and I've got another wing board, and I'm actually going to put the RSPro Hexa Pads on all of them. So there's going to be an in-depth tutorial on how to apply the pads to your surfboard. It's pretty straightforward, but I want to give you some tips and hints on the layout, which I struggled with in the first place. So if you want to know more about the pads, drop me a message in the comments and I'm trying to get back to you. And don't forget to subscribe, because there's going to be more content coming up, especially the tutorial on how to apply the pads to your board. So thanks for watching. Hopefully see you soon.